Hey guys, welcome to a Watersports Centre video, and today we're talking about the brand new Ozone Enduro V5. As soon as I started flying this kite, I could tell instantly that it was different to previous models of the Enduro. The first thing that jumped out to me the second it flew into the sky was the bar pressure. It's much lighter and much more easy to use than a previous Enduro model. This is a positive change for the Enduro. I believe it leads to a much more friendly, easy feeling, adaptable riding style, which we want to see from a kite in this sector. This is super positive. Unlike previous models that lent more into a freestyle unhooking feel, this kite tends to now lean much more towards that free ride, all-rounder, big air, wave, foil discipline that people are craving from a model like this. On top of that bar feel, it was very obvious to me how the delivery of power changed. The power felt extremely linear. The previous model to me felt like there was a sweet spot about a third off the bar, and then the next 2/3 were rather dead. I think this kite is going to really lean to much better bar out steering, but also a very linear power feel. So this will help with low end, this will help with feel through jumps and riding, but also just make the kite so much more accessible for 80% of kite surfers out there. Moving on, let's talk about construction and build quality. Ozone are synonymous with those two things. Having their own factory, they can really control every single part. The next thing is the Enduro has been brought up into the line, as obviously it's a 2-year cycle run, and that just means that some of the new features you'd have seen on the Vortex, the Alpha and the Ultra X Rio just are now also added to that Enduro. They use their triple ripstop Dacron and their triple ripstop canopy material. These are tried and tested, and this comes in at their entry point for construction. And one of the big changes with the Enduro V5 is the shape change. So there's a bit less arc in the Enduro this time. That flattens that central profile. That leans to a much more floaty, lofty kite. And this leads us on nicely to mention that Ozone are still the only brand to offer the continuous curve leading edge, which leads to a really smooth, clean power delivery. One of the things they've really improved with this model is the low end. For me, the old Enduro was an absolute charger. The mid to high end was really, really strong, but the low end just wasn't there with the way that that last third of the bar was the only place you could really find the power. Whereas the new V5 really tackles this. And one of my sessions in about 15 to 20 knots, I'm about 92 kilos on a 9 meter, was quite manageable. I still had to find some of the power out there, but I thought it was a really, really solid test. As I grew to my next session in kind of mid-20s with some gusts in the mid-25, 30s, I really started to experience how playful this kite can be. So on to turning speed. The Enduro V5 really sits exactly where it needs to in this category. I think there's a massive onus on super, super fast double looping kites these days, and I don't think that inspires anyone apart from the pros to try anything new. From learning your first back rolls to riding down the line and to kite looping, I think it's really, really spot on. Moving on to a little bit more chat about kite looping. The old Enduro of past has always had a really exciting loop, and for me that's been excellent, but I don't think that inspires most kite surfers to really get out there and try it. Having a kite that loops much more smoothly without as much yank, I think will really, really encourage you to try your first loops and then hopefully your first rotations with the loops. A kite that loops too aggressively can always cause you to rotate as you loop, which is never a good thing. So spot on, full marks there for Ozone. This leads on nicely to how does this kite jump and what's the float like. I think for me, this is one of the biggest improvements with the new Enduro. I found that the jumping characteristics were fairly similar, although probably more accessible due to the fact that bar pressure is lighter, so it was easier to turn and aggressively fly towards 12, giving a good amount of lift. I also think the kite feels a bit lighter in the sky. I think the leading edge is a little bit skinnier, again helping that kite shoot above my head and give me good lift. Finally, hang time. This is the biggest improvement from Ozone here. The hang time on this kite, the float that I got, was really, really surprising for a model like this. I really felt a massive improvement there. I found that the kite gently popped me down to earth. However, it's still not just a sheet go up and down model. It still requires a good bit of piloting, but I have more time to figure out what I needed to do to get down. And on to the last and quite crucially important part of kite buying experience, the price. Price of a 12 meter Enduro is $16.75. That's 1,675 British pounds. For me, I think that's a little bit above the market average for a kite like this, but actually for the Ozone quality, for the fact the kite's going to be there for 2 years, I do think it's a fair price, although above market average. One thing you get a little bit of money back on is their bars are $5.35 for a 50 centimetre with 23 metre lines. And I'd say that's £50 to £100 below market value. So you get a little bit back there. To summarise, the Ozone Enduro V5 has now moved exactly where it needs to be. It's still retained its DNA from past models, so the freestyler, the ex-wakeboarder, etc. is still going to love the feedback and the unhooked capabilities. However, it's now open to a much broader market where it can go against the heavy hitters in the all-rounder category. And really, the only thing to separate it from those other brands is feel. So now it's got the competence, the ease of use to really go toe for toe. It's down to you in a test scenario to decide which one you like the feel of best. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.